There is a kind of silence that is not empty. It's a presence, a weight. It settles in the room long after he has left, or long after the last message was sent. The phone lies dark on the table, but it isn't quiet. It hums with a silent, high-frequency tension that only you can feel. Your body is still in a conversation that your mind knows has ended. Your shoulders are braced for a sound. Your breath is held, waiting for a notification that doesn't arrive. This distance he has created, it has become louder than any words he ever spoke. When he was present, his words could be analyzed, debated, held onto. But his absence speaks a language your logic cannot decode, a language that bypasses your mind and goes straight into your nervous system. It's a language of doubt, of replayed memories, of questions that multiply in the middle of the night. Did I say too much? Did I ask for too much? Was I not enough? The world tells you the simple story. If he wanted to, he would. If he cared, he would reach out. Move on, forget him. But a deeper part of you, an instinct you can't quite name, feels that this simple story is incomplete. It feels like a convenient lie that ignores the sheer volume of his silence. It's not the silence of indifference. Indifference is a flat line, a forgotten memory. This is a charged, active silence, a wall that has been deliberately built, and you are standing before it, feeling its coldness, wondering not just what is on the other side, but why the wall was built in the first place. What if his distance is not a measure of his feelings for you, but a measure of his conflict with himself? What if the wall he built is not to keep you out, but to keep something inside himself locked in? This is where we move beyond the surface-level advice of magazines and friends, and into the deep, often uncomfortable territory of the human psyche. This is where the work of Carl Jung becomes not a theory, but a map to the hidden landscape behind that wall. Because his silence isn't just about him, it's a mirror, reflecting a part of your own soul you were not prepared to meet. To understand his distance, we must first understand the architecture of his inner world. Jung taught that what we present to the world is rarely our whole self. We present a carefully constructed mask, which he called the persona. The persona is the good employee, the cool guy, the strong and silent type, the adventurous spirit. It's the part of him that is socially acceptable, functional, and often admirable. It's likely the part of him you first fell in love with. It was competent, charming, perhaps a little guarded, but impressively self-contained. This persona works beautifully as long as life remains on the surface. It can handle casual dating, witty banter, shared adventures. But genuine intimacy is not a surface-level experience. Intimacy is a solvent. It begins to dissolve the mask. Your presence, your emotional honesty, your own vulnerability, starts to ask a question of him that he may not be ready to answer. Who are you behind the mask? And this is where the trouble begins. The part of him that runs the show, the conscious identity, is what Jung called the ego. The ego's primary job is to maintain a sense of control, order, and identity. For many men in our culture, the ego is fused with a persona of strength, invulnerability, and emotional control. To be a real man is to be unshaken, to have the answers, to not be too emotional. When you get close, when the connection deepens and requires real vulnerability, his ego feels a seismic threat. It feels the mask cracking. The raw, unedited, uncertain self underneath is about to be exposed. And the ego panics. It perceives this exposure not as an opportunity for deeper connection, but as a catastrophic failure. To be seen as uncertain, afraid, or overwhelmed is, for this kind of ego, a form of psychic death. So, what does it do? It initiates an emergency protocol. It builds a wall. This wall is the distance you feel. It is the silence. It is the sudden busyness, the short replies, the emotional unavailability. The distance is a defense mechanism. It's a desperate attempt by his ego to regain control, to push you away just far enough so it has the time and space to repair the mask, to put the persona back in its place. His silence is not empty. It is filled with the frantic, invisible work of psychological self-preservation. He is not necessarily withdrawing from you. He is withdrawing from the man he is afraid of becoming in your presence. A man who is not in control. A man who feels something he cannot manage. The silence is the sound of his inner defenses going to red alert. It's not a sign of his lack of feeling. Paradoxically, It is often a sign of the intensity of the feeling he is trying to contain. The more powerful the connection felt, the more threatened his ego becomes, and the thicker the wall he needs to build. Think of it like a shoreline. When the tide is low, the beach is wide and accessible. This is the casual phase of the relationship. But when a powerful wave of emotion comes in, perhaps a moment of deep connection, a vulnerable confession, or a glimpse of a shared future, the water rushes up the beach. For an ego terrified of being submerged, the only response is to retreat to higher ground, far away from the tide line. His distance is that retreat. He is running from the wave, not necessarily from the ocean itself. This is the first layer of the deep truth. His distance is an ego defense. It is a function of his persona. It is not a personal rejection, but a systemic, unconscious reaction to a perceived threat of emotional exposure. He may not even be able to articulate this to himself. If you were to ask him why he's being distant, he might genuinely not know, or he might offer a logical-sounding reason from his persona. I'm just busy with work. I've got a lot on my mind. I'm not ready for something serious. These are the official statements issued by the ego's press secretary. They are designed to maintain the mask of control and rationality. But the real reason is a feeling, a panic, a wordless terror in the unconscious that says, "This is too much. I am losing myself. I am being seen." The louder his silence, the greater the inner turmoil he is trying to manage. But this is only his side of the equation. Understanding his mechanism is clarifying, but it is not healing. The healing begins when we dare to ask the more difficult question. Why does his particular wall affect me so profoundly? Of all the walls and all the silences in the world, why does this one hold me captive? This is where we turn the Jungian mirror from him to ourselves. Just as he has a persona, you have one too. Perhaps your persona is the cool girl, the understanding partner, the low-maintenance woman who doesn't ask for much. You learn that to be loved is to be easy, to be accommodating, to not make waves. And just as he has an unconscious, so do you. Within your unconscious is what Jung called the animus, the inner masculine principle. The animus represents your connection to logic, action, and assertion. But when it is unconscious or wounded, it can manifest as a harsh inner critic, or as a set of rigid, unspoken beliefs about how a man should be. For instance, an unconscious animus belief might be, "A man who truly loves me will always pursue, will always be certain, will break down walls for me." When he pulls away, his action, or lack of action, collides directly with this unconscious belief system. His silence activates your wounded animus, which begins to whisper its toxic logic. See, he is not the one. He is weak. Or worse, you are not worthy of being pursued. You failed to keep him. This inner voice turns his silence into a verdict on your worth. Furthermore, his withdrawal is likely triggering a much older, deeper wound within you. This is what Jungians would call a complex. A complex is an emotionally charged cluster of memories, beliefs, and feelings in the personal unconscious. For many, the most powerful is the abandonment complex. It may have formed in early childhood, from a parent who was physically or emotionally absent, inconsistent, or critical. You learned, on a cellular level, that love is precarious and can be withdrawn at any moment without explanation. As an adult, you live with this complex like a dormant allergy. You can be fine for years, but then you meet someone who, for a time, soothes that old wound. His presence feels like the ultimate validation. His attention feels like safety. Unconsciously, you hand him the key to that old, locked room inside you, and then he pulls away. His distance doesn't just feel like a modern dating disappointment. It feels exactly like the original wound. The same cold dread, the same feeling of panic, the same primal fear of being left alone. His silence is a perfect echo of an old silence from your past. Your reaction is not just about him. It is a 20 or 30-year-old pain erupting into the present moment. You are not just mourning the loss of this man. You are reliving a fundamental terror. This is why you can't just let it go. This is why it feels so obsessive. Your psyche is not just trying to solve a romantic puzzle. It is desperately trying to prevent a past trauma from repeating. It's trying to finally get a different outcome. If I can just figure out the right thing to say, the right thing to do, I can make him turn back. If I can make him turn back, it means I am not unlovable. It means the original wound was a lie. Do you see the trap? Your entire sense of self-worth becomes entangled in trying to change his behavior, in trying to get him to open that closed door. You are no longer a whole person living your life. You have become a watchman, stationed outside his wall, waiting for a sign. Your energy, your focus, your power, all of it is being poured into the dead-end task of decoding his silence. Now we arrive at the most difficult and most liberating part of this journey. The psychological mechanism of his distance involves a third, crucial element from a Jungian perspective: the shadow. The shadow is the part of ourselves that we have repressed and disowned because it was deemed unacceptable by our family, culture, or our own ego. It contains the feelings we don't want to feel, the traits we don't want to admit we have. For the man who withdraws, his shadow may contain his vulnerability, his fear, his neediness, his deep longing for connection. His persona of the strong, silent type is built on the rejection of this shadow. His distance is a frantic effort to keep his shadow locked in the basement of his psyche. He is afraid that if you see his shadow, you will reject him. Or worse, he will have to face it himself, and his entire identity as a strong man will crumble. But you have a shadow too. If your persona is the understanding, easygoing woman, what might be in your shadow? Perhaps it is your anger, your raw, unfiltered need, your capacity to make demands, your right to say, "This is not enough for me." You learn that these parts of you were too much, demanding, or unfeminine. So you repressed them. You became endlessly patient, endlessly understanding, endlessly accommodating. And here is the devastating psychological secret. His shadow and your shadow are in a hidden relationship. He is unconsciously drawn to your light, your warmth, your emotional expressiveness, because it represents the very part of himself, his own feeling nature, his anima, that he has repressed. You give him a taste of wholeness. You, in turn, are drawn to his seeming strength and self-containment because it represents the part of you, your animus, your sense of solid boundaries and self-direction, that you may feel is lacking. But when he withdraws, he is acting out his fear of his own shadow vulnerability. And in response, you are forced to confront yours. Your obsession with his silence, your frantic attempts to understand him, your inability to walk away, all of this is your repressed neediness and fear coming up from the shadow. The dynamic has forced you to feel everything you tried not to be: desperate, anxious, and powerless. The situation is a crucible. It is designed by the unconscious to bring both of your shadows into the light. His withdrawal is a symptom of his refusal to meet his shadow. Your painful obsession is an invitation to finally meet yours. This is the turning point. This is the moment the power shifts. As long as you are focused on him, you are a victim of the dynamic. You are waiting for him to change, to fix his ego, to integrate his shadow. You could be waiting forever. The only move that breaks the spell is to turn your attention away from his wall and toward your own inner landscape. The question ceases to be, "Why is he doing this?" and becomes, "What is this situation forcing me to feel in myself?" The answer is likely uncomfortable. It's forcing you to feel the raw terror of your abandonment complex. It's forcing you to feel the desperate neediness you hid behind your cool girl persona. It's forcing you to feel the rage at being ignored that you suppressed in order to be the understanding woman. Your task is not to get him to speak. Your task is to allow these parts of your own shadow to speak to you. What does your neediness have to say? Perhaps it says, "I am terrified of being alone. I need to know I am worthy of being chosen." Instead of acting this out by texting him, you sit with that feeling. You acknowledge it. You say to that young part of you, "I hear you. I see your fear. But I am here. I will not abandon you." You begin to parent yourself. What does your anger have to say? Perhaps it says, "I am tired of being an option. I am tired of my kindness being mistaken for weakness. I deserve clarity and respect." Instead of turning this anger on yourself, "What did I do wrong?" or trying to suppress it, you honor it. Anger is often a messenger from the self, telling you a boundary has been crossed. You let that anger become the fuel to build your own boundary, not as a wall to punish him, but as a sacred circle to protect your own energy. This is the work. It is not about tactics. It is not about a no-contact rule designed to manipulate him into coming back. This is about a profound return to yourself. When you stop knocking on his door and start tending to the garden of your own soul, the entire energetic dynamic shifts. He can feel your absence in a way he never felt your presence. When you were focused on him, your energy was a constant pressure on his wall. It was something for his ego to resist, to fight against. Your focus validated the importance of his defense. But when you withdraw your energy, when you truly, genuinely turn your attention back to your own life, your own joy, your own purpose, a vacuum is created. There is no more pressure on the wall. There is only silence. But now, it is your silence. And your silence speaks a different language. It does not ask, "Where are you?" It states, "I am here." It does not plead, "Please come back." It declares, "I am whole without you." His ego, which was so busy defending against your presence, now has nothing to push against. It is left alone with the very feelings it was trying to avoid. He is left alone with his own shadow. The silence he created to manage his inner world is now echoed back at him, and it forces him to confront the emptiness or chaos he was trying to project onto you. Will he come back? This is the question the ego always asks, but it is the wrong question. From a soul perspective, from the perspective of what Carl Jung called individuation, the journey to becoming a whole, integrated individual, the right question is, who will I become in this process? If this process of turning inward leads you to reclaim your disowned anger and turn it into powerful boundaries, if it leads you to meet your own neediness with compassion instead of shame, if it leads you to find your self-worth within yourself instead of in his validation, then you have already won. You have extracted the gold from the painful experience. If he does return, he will not be met by the anxious, waiting woman at the wall. He will be met by a woman who is centered in her own being, a woman whose peace is not contingent on his presence. She is no longer a player in his ego drama. She can see his persona for what it is, a mask, and have compassion for the frightened man behind it. But she will not sacrifice her own wholeness to make him feel comfortable. She will demand, not with anger, but with quiet certainty, that he meet her in a place of authenticity, or not at all. And if he does not return, the grief will be real, but it will not be devastating, because you will not have lost yourself in the process of losing him. You will have found yourself. The wall he built, the wall that felt like a prison, will be revealed for what it truly was, a catalyst, a painful, unwanted, but ultimately sacred invitation to come home to yourself. If this reflection names something you have been feeling but could never put into words, take a moment. The journey of understanding these deep patterns is not about blame. It's about illumination. It's about seeing the hidden machinery of the psyche so you are no longer a puppet of it. Look at the symbolic closed door he has created. For weeks, maybe months, you have been staring at it. You've analyzed the type of wood, the color of the paint, the make of the handle. You've listened for every tiny sound from the other side. You've exhausted yourself. The transformation happens in a single, quiet moment of decision. The decision to turn around. The decision to stop looking at his door and to start looking at the vast, open landscape behind you. This landscape is your life. It is your friendships, your passions, your purpose, your connection to something greater than one person's approval. At first, turning away feels terrifying. It feels like giving up. It feels like admitting defeat. Your ego and your abandonment complex will scream in protest. But yourself, that deep, wise center of your being, knows it is the only path to freedom. You take one step away from the door, then another. You don't do it as a strategy. You don't do it while peeking over your shoulder to see if he's noticed. You do it for you. You do it because your life force is too precious to be spent as a sentry at the gates of someone else's fear. You begin to reinvest your energy. The energy you spent analyzing his texts, you now spend reading a book that nourishes your soul. The energy you spent waiting for his call, you now spend calling a friend who makes you laugh. The energy you spent replaying conversations, you now spend creating something new, a painting, a business plan, a garden, a new recipe. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, you begin to change. The constant hum of anxiety in your body subsides. You start sleeping through the night. You notice the color of the sky again. You hear the music in a cafe. You are re-inhabiting your own life. You are returning to yourself. This is the alchemy. This is how you transform the lead of his rejection into the gold of your own sovereignty. His distance, which once felt like a weapon aimed at your heart, becomes a tool that carved you into a more whole, more powerful, and more authentic version of yourself. The pain was real, but it was not the final word. The final word belongs to you. My peace is no longer on the other side of his silence. My peace is no longer on the other side of his silence. It has taken root right here, in the soil of my own being. This is not an intellectual statement. It is a physiological reality. It is a truth felt first in the body. Remember the body that was in a conversation long after the connection was cut. The body that held its breath, whose shoulders were braced for an impact that never came. The work of turning inward is what finally allows that body to stand down. It's the moment you take the first full, deep breath you've taken in months, and on the exhale, you feel a lifetime of tension release from your jaw, your neck, your shoulders. This is the body memory layer of healing. The trauma of abandonment, both old and new, is not a concept. It is a contraction stored in your tissues. The constant low-grade cortisol, the fight-or-flight state, it was a hum beneath the surface of your days. Healing is the process of the body finally receiving the message that the war is over. You are safe. You are not being left on the side of the road. You are the road and the vehicle and the driver. This somatic release is the first and most undeniable sign that the energetic shift is real. It is followed by other, quieter signs that bloom in the space you've created. One day, you will be in the middle of your work, or a conversation with a friend, or lost in a piece of music, and you will realize with a jolt that you have not thought about him for 3 hours, then 6, then a whole day. This is not the forced distraction you attempted in the beginning. This is a genuine forgetting. His story has ceased to be the headline news of your inner world. It has become a forgotten article in a back issue. Your mind, once a detective obsessively searching for clues in his silence, has been given a new, more compelling case: your own life. Another sign is the changing voice of your inner world, the harsh, critical voice of the wounded animus, the one that used to narrate your every perceived failure, begins to lose its power. A thought about him might still surface, a memory might drift by, but it no longer triggers the cascade of shame and anxiety. Instead, there is a gentle curiosity, a quiet observation. The thought arises, and a new, calmer part of you simply responds. And the emotional charge has been neutralized. You can look at the memory without being electrocuted by it. This internal shift often manifests in your dreams. The unconscious, which once tormented you with dreams of chasing him, of being locked out, or of him being with someone else, begins to offer a new narrative. You might dream that he appears, and you simply turn and walk away. You might dream that you find a new door, one that opens into a sunlit garden you've never seen before. Your psyche is confirming the work you've done. It is showing you, in its symbolic language, that you are no longer a prisoner of the dynamic. You are free. This newfound freedom unlocks a tremendous amount of energy. This is the life force that was previously hemorrhaging into the black hole of his absence. Suddenly, you feel an urge to create, to write, to paint, to dance, to rearrange your furniture. This is not just a whim. This is your soul, your self, reclaiming its territory. It is the raw energy of your integrated shadow. The anger you finally allowed yourself to feel has not made you bitter. It has clarified your boundaries and sharpened your focus. The neediness you met with compassion has not made you weak. It has deepened your capacity for true intimacy, starting with yourself. You are no longer waiting for life to happen to you. You are the source of your own life. And it is precisely at this moment, when you are no longer looking for it, that the test often arrives. It will come on a random Tuesday night. A notification will light up your phone. It will be his name. The message will be deceptively simple. Hey, or thinking about you, or how have you been? The old you would have felt a jolt, an electric shock to the nervous system. Your heart would have started pounding, your mind racing. What does it mean? Why now? What should I say? It would have been a moment of dizzying hope and terrifying vulnerability. The watchman at the gate, who had fallen asleep on the job, would have been scrambled back to her post. But the woman you have become is different. You see the message, you register the name, and you feel calm. There is no tidal wave, there is no panic, there is no immediate compulsion to respond. Your body does not go into high alert. The peace you have so carefully cultivated in your own nervous system holds. You look at the message, and you see it for what it is, a low-effort bid for connection from a man who is likely, finally, feeling the vacuum of your absence. He is knocking, not on your door, but on his own. He is feeling the silence he created, and he is reaching out to see if your energy is still there to soothe him. The test is not whether he reaches out. The test is how you feel when he does. Your lack of an immediate, emotional reaction is your graduation certificate. You put the phone down. You are not playing a game. You are not instituting a no-contact rule. You are simply in the middle of living your life. You finish your chapter. You water your plants. You get ready for bed. The message is a piece of data, not a summons. If and when you choose to reply, you do so from this new center of power. Your response is not born of anxiety or a need to secure his interest. It is born of your own sovereignty. Perhaps you reply the next morning with a simple, "I'm doing very well, thank you. Hope all is well with you." It is polite. It is warm. But it is not an open door. It is a mirror. It reflects his level of effort right back at him. It communicates, without a single word of anger or need, a profound truth. My world no longer revolves around you. My peace is not for sale. If you wish to enter my life, you will need to do more than whisper through the mail slot. You will need to show up, authentically, and knock on the front door like a man who knows what he wants. You are no longer auditioning. You are the director. You are no longer trying to decode his signals. You are emitting your own clear frequency, a frequency of self-respect, anguancy, a frequency of self-respect. And this is the frequency that a man who has done his own work can recognize and respect. A man who is still running from his own shadow will find this frequency uncomfortable, and he will likely retreat again. And you will let him, because his retreat no longer feels like a rejection. It feels like a clarification. This entire journey, which felt so intensely about him, was never about him. He was simply the catalyst. He was the stone thrown into the still waters of your unconscious, bringing old mud and forgotten debris to the surface. He was the mirror that forced you to look at the parts of yourself you had abandoned long ago. Your power, your anger, your needs, your sovereign self. The silence he weaponized became the sanctuary where you found yourself. The wall he built to keep you out became the surface upon which you painted your own masterpiece of resilience. The pain was an initiation. It was a fierce and holy fire that burned away the woman who believed her worth was negotiable, and forged the woman who knows it is absolute. So if you are standing before that wall now, if you are lost in the maddening volume of his distance, know this. There is a landscape behind you, vast and beautiful and waiting. The path away from his door is the path home. And when you finally arrive, you will understand that the love you were so desperately seeking from him was only ever a reflection of the love you were meant to give to yourself. The silence that once felt like an ending was in fact the beginning of the most important conversation of your life, the one between you and you.